Hello and welcome to Wisdom Bites. Hope you're well. Thank you once again for joining us. Very much appreciated. And I'm going to have a look at today one indicator that has predicted the tops of the previous four tops, the four peaks that we've had over the last 12 years. But it's also something that gives you an indication of what may happen after a turnaround, after a reversal in the market at the end of a bear market. It certainly hasn't been wrong up to now. So what we can do is to elicit as much information as we can from that. Amongst other things, I'll also be looking at the 60-day cycle and see exactly where we're at. I'll also have a look at the Bitcoin miners portfolio and see exactly what the Bitcoin miners have been up to while Bitcoin has been going sideways for the last 10 days or so. So if that sounds interesting, then without further ado, get yourself a cup of tea, sit yourself down, eyes on the screen, and let's get cracking. And as usual, the polite reminder, please remember everything in my videos is just for educational purposes. Nothing should be taken as financial advice. So please do your wider research before you make any investment decisions. So with that out of the way, I'm actually going to start off with the Twitter and what's been going on in the last couple of days or so. Those of you who've been following me on the Twitter will know that the news broke that the Fed actually raised the interest rates by 25 basis points. And I mentioned in the last video that this is what was expected. So this is exactly what we got. And the initial reaction was what I was really waiting for. And the initial reaction was actually very muted. People didn't know what to make of it because it was totally as expected. So for the first hour, what happened was usually there would be a very high level of volatility in the markets. But what I saw was that there was an anticlimax with the markets digesting the news and not knowing how to respond. And I said here that, is this the calm before the storm, or will we have to wait for the earnings of the big NASDAQ companies? And then within about half an hour of that, once the markets had digested the information, what we really got was a big increase to the upside. And I mentioned in this tweet that looks like the calm has finally broken into the expected storm. And the question is, how high can we go? Well, we went up to 24,100 and it was a very good opportunity for Bitcoin to then to rush to the 25,000 that we've been expecting. It didn't materialize and since then it's pulled back. And I mentioned this particular pattern, which is on the monthly chart, and it's what they call a classic morning star pattern, and it really has three candles, and I'll go through that in a second just to give you an explanation of that. And for those of you who are interested in patterns, I gave a little bit of an insight of exactly what these candles mean. And one of the averages that we really need to look at is this green line here, which is on the weekly chart. It's the 200 weekly simple moving average, and it is conflating with the 25,200, 25,500 resistance level that we have over here, which is what's guiding us to predict the price of 25,000, that more than likely with a higher degree of probability that we're going to probably have a correction at these points. So the price is magnetically aiming towards the 200 simple moving average as well as the resistance point here. And I also mentioned the ATMA, where the price is just using it as a guide to ride on this moving average until we probably get to the 25,000 level. And for those of you who like a personal development, I just mentioned this here in the morning yesterday, that this is not just another day. Please remember that this is yet another chance, another opportunity to make your dreams come true. Don't take any days for granted. Every day is an absolutely amazing opportunity to reach your goals, to move forward, to progress, to whatever it is in life you want to achieve. And if you don't have any goals, if you don't have any dreams, if you don't have any visions for your life, then it's about time you had some. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, I do post quite a bit of the personal development, but mostly charts and my insight in between my videos. And the link for my Twitter is below all of my videos. Okay, I'm going to start off on the weekly chart here. And as you can see, there is a trend line all the way through these 3 points over here. And I've shown you this trend line before. But the nice thing about it is that in the last 2 weeks, we've actually broken through this line here. And as I've mentioned in many videos of mine in the past, if you've been watching me long enough, you'll know that the first stage is actually to break this downward trend line, this downward price action. But the real test is when it comes to the horizontal resistance and support lines. And this is the resistance line that we're really waiting for over here. And it is often the case that when we do break these trend lines, You'll notice on most of the charts, on most of the assets, whichever asset you're covering, have a look at this. It always seems to happen in more than 70–80% of the time that once we break a trend line, always look left and have a look at where the resistance point is. And more than likely, with a high degree of probability, it comes to that point and gets rejected and then comes back and retests the same line again before it moves to the upside if it's in a bullish phase that it has been over here for Bitcoin. So this is what I'm expecting. We'll see what happens, only time will tell. And for those of you with a keen eye, will notice something very interesting developing here. As you can see, there's a left shoulder here ahead and the potential to actually form a right shoulder over here. And that again fits in with this narrative that once we do hit the 25, we should come back and retest this level here at this support. It could be around 20,000. I did have a look at that in the last video. And it's really, the shoulder here is around about the 18.5 mark. But it doesn't always come back to that same level. It could be to this level here. So it comes back over here and makes a shallow shoulder, or it could be deeper. Only time will tell, and we'll get to that as the price develops. And we'll have a look at some of the candlestick patterns. So very, very important, as you can see, a potential inverse head and shoulders developing over here. Okay, so what is this indicator that is actually telling us when the tops of the market are, as well as what tends to happen at the bottom of a bear market, and what information can we take from that? The indicator is called the pi cycle, and as I've mentioned this many times before, and I think in one of my videos somebody mentioned in the comments that, oh, this is just a historical indicator they created in 2018. Of course, but that's what you want. You want to have a look at what kinds of things actually worked all the way through to predict the future. And as I'll show you, that whilst this was created in 2018, after the top in December 2017, well, this also predicted the top at 64,000. And many indicators are actually done with the history in mind and to see what fits. And you'd be foolish to actually ignore these types of indicators because they do have a very good way of predicting the future and them actually being realized. So let's have a look at this first. So the pi cycle is basically the 111 daily simple moving average moving with the 350 simple moving average. Okay, so I'll make the lines a bit bolder so we can see them properly. As you can see, when we topped out at the end of 2013 over here, these two averages, the 111, which is the red line, and the 350, which is the green line, they crossed over here. And as you can see, it happened to be right at the top of where the bull market ended. But not only that, the red line, the 111 simple moving average, if you look over here, when we bottomed out at the bottom of this bear market, we created the two bottoms over here. So I showed you this in the last video, that this was a bottoming out pattern that we had for Bitcoin at the end of that first cycle. But once we'd made our two bottoms here, we came up above the red line here and then moved towards the green line. And that was our first rally after the bear market over here. So that's very important to note, that once we'd actually bottomed out and crossed over the red line, the 111 simple moving average, the rally that followed came all the way up to the green line over here. If we move to the second cycle, once again, when we topped out in December 2017, the red line went above the green line and crossed over at exactly the peak of that market. And once again, in the bear market that followed afterwards, we'd made our double bottom over here. After we double bottomed, we crossed over the line, and the next step in that rally was all the way up to the green line once again, where we topped out at 14,000. So a pattern seems to be developing over the last two cycles over here. So what's happened in the current cycle? Let's have a look. So in April 2021, the lines crossed once again over here, and once again we reached our peak over here. So once again, the crossover predicted the top of the cycle here. And yes, we ended up making a higher high over here, by which times the lines had diverged, and this was our second top. So we can say that the lines did not predict this over here. However, this was really our technical top. So the question is, what happened after the bear market started from November 2021. So this is the state of play currently. Topped out at 69,000. We've come up as resistance on this line many times as in the past. We've bottomed out twice here at 15.5 and 15.4, or if you want to use this one as the bottom. But as per the previous two cycles, once we'd bottomed out over here, we've crossed over the red line and now we are on our way. And if the two previous cycles are to be followed, then the next stop would be the green line over here. And that is currently at around about 50,000. And that would provide confluence with these tops over here. So let's wait and see. But certainly, once we had crossed the line, if you look in the previous cycle, once we'd crossed the line, we never came back to the bottoms here. So I don't think, with a degree of probability based on two previous data points, so it's not a lot of data points, but we've got to work with what we've got. And it would seem that once we cross the red line over here, we're not going to come back to that 15.4 here. And the chances are that the first rally after the lines crossed by the price action, we tend to go to the green line. So yes, we'll have corrections along the way, but I think by the end of 2023, somewhere along the line in that time period between now and December, we're going to cross this line over here. If it's going to be a bit later on, then obviously that's going to be much lower. That could be anywhere around about the 40,000 mark. And that plays with our narrative that I've been predicting for this year, that more than likely, with a high degree of probability, that somewhere along the line we're going to get to between 40 and 50,000. So it really pays to follow this pi cycle on the daily chart, and it's telling us a lot of things what could happen in the future based on what's happened in the past. Yes, it was created in 2018, but then it predicted the 2021 top at $64,000. So it does work very, very well. And no doubt, if you look at where the lines are here now, the green line and the red line, what does that tell you? We're exactly at the same points as we were before in the previous cycle here. And this led to this top being predicted by the crossover here. So let's wait and see, but very interesting information. So a quick look at the pattern of the morning star that I've been looking at in the Twitter. So basically what we get at the bottom of a trend is a red candle followed by a small bodied candle, followed then by a big Marubozu candle, this green candle over here. And if you want to look at momentum, this one candle over here has taken out the tops of 1, 2, 3, 4 candles over here in the past. That's telling you that there's a huge amount of buying that's been going on in this candle. There was a lot of pent-up demand, and this pattern usually is followed by the following month's candle to be normally green. Yes, it can turn red during the month, but usually ends green over here. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Always remember that these patterns, these candlestick patterns, usually are short-term. So they're very good at predicting the next candle. However, these morning star patterns are usually found at the bottom of a very strong bear trend here, and therefore they're usually what we call a reversal pattern, and they do lead to a very big bull run after them. So we'll wait and see what happens to the February candle, but certainly these 3 candles, the morning star pattern is predicting another green candle over here. How long that will be, we don't know, but certainly I'd expect it to go to the 25,000 over here at least. Maybe have a correction and then move back up again by the end of the month maybe, or we'll have to see how that develops. Okay, moving on to the daily chart and the 60-day cycle framework that we've been working with the Bitcoin price. As we know, the cycle finished here after 51 days from the previous cycle, and since then we're on day 35 here. You can see quite clearly after the midpoint of these two cycles, the red line here and the red line, these are the 2 ranges that we've got within this 60-day period we're currently in now. And the midpoint, the white line, we've now clearly made a higher high after the midpoint, which tells us this is a right translated cycle. And this is very important because it's telling us a signal in here. They're all embedded, all these signs are embedded, and I've been showing you all these signs along the way within this 60-day cycle framework. So it means that there are less days for it to come down into the 60-day cycle low. Where that will be, no one knows. However, all we know is that with a strong rally that we've had over here, there's a lot of demand still waiting to actually pick up the Bitcoin at the first sign. because the majority of people have missed the bottom here. So you've got a lot of anxious people waiting to get into Bitcoin. Will that be at this support line here at around about the 21.4 mark, or will this be a deeper correction to this next line here, which is the 18.5? So only time will tell, but what this does do is it tells us that the direction within the next 30 days is going to be more to the downside. Now, of course, we can go one more leg up to the 25 before this correction, but with a high degree of probability based on previous cycles that if we do go to this resistance point here, and there's a lot of confluence of many resistance points here, like the 200 simple moving average, like the Bollinger Bands, as you can see here, we're right at the top of the Bollinger Bands over here. And of course, this 25,000 historical resistance line. We know that there is a good degree of probability that it's going to come down. So it could well be that in the next few days, if we manage to hit the 25.2, then that would be the catalyst for a correction down here. Of course, that doesn't have to happen. And if you look at yesterday's candle over here, there's a good rejection of the price at around about 24.1, 24.2. So this could well be the start of the correction. We don't know, we'll have to see. But certainly we've got a right translated cycle. We've got a lot of people that missed out on the bottom over here. There's a lot of anxious buyers waiting to buy this up. So we expect a shallow correction rather than a deeper correction. And once we get to the low around this point, then we know that we are about to turn back up again for the start of the next 30 days towards the midpoint of the next cycle. But if you look left here, we did get a rejection at this point with these long wicks at the top, and we still managed to make a higher high over here. So there is still a possibility of it going up, but even if it does actually come back down, and our breakdown point would be at this point here at 22.5. If we break below and close a daily candle below 22.5, then the chances are we've topped out here at 24.2. So keep your eye and focus on the 60-day cycle here. Okay, moving on to the Bitcoin miners. This was the board that we had yesterday at the close of play. And as you can see, there's some very good green numbers here. And there's one that really stands out here. This one here, Cypher. At one point, this went up by around 100%. It went from around 140 to 280, and it settled in the end at 44%. There were other notables. Core Scientific 18%, the major ones, Marathon 6%, Riot 9%, and there's always one red on the board, and this time it was Wolf. TeraWulf went down by 34%. So how did these figures translate into our Bitcoin miners portfolio? So these are the 8 miners that I chose, who I thought were going to be the best horses for 2023 in terms of their growth. And we started this portfolio on the 5th of January 2023, and I took the prices at that point over here, the buy price, and these are the current prices from yesterday that I've transferred over. And as I've mentioned, the 2 companies that I think are going to do the best in 2023 is Marathon and Cypher, and of the 2, I've been saying that Cypher is my preferred asset here. And so I've allocated, we started at $100,000 here, and our target for this year in 2023 is $1 million. And so I allocated 20% to Marathon and 20% to Cypher and 10% to all the rest of the other ones here. So far, Cypher is now the actual fastest horse so far at the end of the first month. And that's gone up by over 207% since the 5th of January. The other ones which are doing well is Hut 8 at 153% and Bitfarms at 125%. And Marathon started really well, but it's now at 90%, along with Iris Energy. And the 2 laggards at the moment are Mawson and CleanSpark at 60 and 66% respectively. So the average increase over the first month of this portfolio from £100,000 starting capital is 111%, so which translates into a $211,000 value here. So let's see where we get to in the next few weeks and months. I'll keep you updated on this, and if you're finding this interesting, then please let me know in the comments below. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Thank you once again for watching the video. And if you found value in the video, then please do remember to like and subscribe and to turn on the notification bell. It really helps the channel out with the logarithms and what have you. And if you want to leave any comments, questions or suggestions, then please leave them in the comments below. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.